Hello, everybody, and welcome to Industrial Automation. It doesn't have to. In case you're new to the program, I'm Brandon Ellis. I'm your host and also the owner of ELDP. As we jump into the episode for today, I want to ask that you hit that follow button and subscribe button based upon the platform that you're listening on. And if you're listening specifically on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you enjoy what you hear today, leave us a 5-star rating and review. We sure would appreciate it. Now that we've got the marketing out of the way, I just want to say thanks for tuning in. So let's get started. Well, good morning and welcome to Industrial Automation. It doesn't have to. Good morning, Beth.
Good day to you, Brandon.
Yeah.
Thanks for my music.
Yeah. So we're here today. We're going to be talking about quite a few things today. We've got some special guests. As far as things going on, big news. The big news for elliTek, if you haven't been paying attention to social media, you're not doing yourself any service.
Maybe they're on vacation.
Could be on vacation, but Beth, you have been doing a fantastic job promoting. But we are privileged to say that we are now the official, what we refer to as high-tech or engineering elite distributor for the Eastern Tennessee area. And so we've been exploring. We announced this at our last podcast. And we've been exploring now. We're going to explore some of the really cool stuff that Siemens offers. And again, industrial automation doesn't have to. Our audience is varied and global. And so while we are here in Eastern Tennessee, if you're an Eastern Tennessee manufacturer and you want to reach out to us, we'd love to work with you, especially with the Siemens product. But the goal of today is to, and this podcast in general, is to disseminate good information and also hear about some really cool new things that's coming. So one of those product lines that Siemens offers, and there are quite a few, is their drives division or the drives business unit, which includes variable frequency drives, AC induction type drives, and motors, and also motion control. And so today's title
is Industrial Automation. It doesn't have to be painful.
So painful. So the idea is we're going to be talking about some of the things that Siemens brings to manufacturers with their products, because let's just face it, it's been a challenging past 14 months with global supply chain crises and things of that nature, and it's touched everybody. It's even touched Siemens. It's touched us all, but it's really touching the manufacturers. And so, Beth, why don't you introduce our special guest today?
All right, today, well, we've got a packed full show.
We're going to have multiple guests.
Yes. So
starting us off is
our first guest today is Rudy Hauser, and Rudy is the Programs and Promotions Manager at Siemens. Rudy has been with Siemens for 42 years. Congratulations, Rudy. He is an applications engineer and specializes in drives, product management, business development, channel management, and solutions marketing. Welcome to the show, Rudy.
Thank you, you two. I'm really glad to be here today.
Yeah. Well, 42 years, so you're just learning your way around.
Finally learning.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a testament to Siemens as a whole, with people that have been around for that long.
Well,
it's amazing.
And it's also a testament for all the experience, which is part of the reason we're privileged to have Rudy here with us today. So you've experienced a thing or two in the past 42 years.
And I've had fun along the way.
Yeah.
Because the technology is very exciting.
It is. So can you give us an overview of Siemens Drives?
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to just start off with, Siemens has designed a family of product that essentially covers a very wide horsepower range. We call that family of products SINAMICS. And with the forethought that we did with this product, where it's a common family of product ranging from fractional horsepower to several thousands of horsepower in low voltage designs, direct current designs, medium voltage designs. And the forethought was this family of product will be built by Siemens and only by Siemens, so we control the design. We control then the tools that go with it. It's a common set of tools. We control the programming that goes into the product. For example, if you learn a fractional horsepower drive, how to program it, you all of a sudden know the basis of how you program a higher horsepower drive. Common set of parameter settings.
So let me ask one question. You mentioned, excuse me, you mentioned low voltage, of course, DC and medium voltage. There's always the question that I've always been asked people, what is low voltage?
Ah, great question.
Yeah.
Low voltage typically is defined for any incoming line voltage that's less than 690 volts.
AC. That's on the AC. Yeah. The DCs, I guess, are just single voltage?
No, dual voltage. Here in the United States, we have 230-volt power supplies and 460-volt power supplies.
DC?
No, AC.
Oh, AC, yeah.
But a DC drive converts AC to DC, and then we power a DC motor.
I see. So it does take in AC on the front end.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's the other thing that I think is a point of confusion with some folks is a DC drive does not mean you have to provide DC supply.
That's a very good point. That is correct.
And so then medium voltage would be defined as?
Anything above essentially 690 volts. It could be 2300 volts. It could be 4160 volts. It could be 13.8 kV.
Yeah. So the big stuff.
The big stuff.
Yeah. Even though we call it medium.
Yeah.
So what is the big stuff if that's medium?
Bigger than that.
Okay.
It's high power typically.
Yeah.
Very high power.
More than I
applications.
want to be around. I'll tell you what. We're talking about some really, really big motors when you start getting up to that level. And so the fact that Siemens covers that full breadth. So continues to walk us through some of this stuff. Sorry, I appreciate that definition.
No problem. But the other thing that I wanted to point out to your audience is we also had the forethought to have a common approach of totally integrated automation in our family of drives and automation products. We made sure that our automation products can talk or communicate to our set of SINAMICS drives. And with that forethought of having the ability to have a common communication protocol for the drives and the flexibility to expand the information on the telegram network between the drives of the automation package really helps us cement our approach for drives that are fit for the future.
Yeah. I mean, information is power today more than ever. And the whole Industry 4.0 movement, things of that nature, connectivity is what it's all about. And so that moves us into a whole new world, a whole new world of manufacturing. So one of the things that we've talked about that I've heard you say a lot, that many people have said a lot, is digital transformation. Give us a definition of digital transformation from the Siemens point of view.
Well, digital transformation really allows a customer to begin to virtually look at what is in the physical world. It takes what's in the physical world and then makes a copy of it in the digital world.
Yeah.
When you have a copy of what's in the real world, in the reality world, now with the right tools, simulation tools, based on actual data that we collect, that's why information communications is so important.
Yep.
All of a sudden, I'm able now to design a new solution or maybe optimize that solution. And then I'm able to, if I need to change that solution, because let's face it, industry is very dynamic. We have to have the capability to make modifications on a machine to do new products or new processes. I can change the process in the digital world and then use that to build a new reality solution.
Without having to build the real thing.
Without having to build the real thing.
Right.
So really what this digital transformation and digital twin allows us to begin to do is to have a basis based on the data that we collect through smart devices like drives, transferring information into automation packages, PLCs, and then taking that information, transferring it up into the cloud so we can then analyze it with tools. We can begin now to virtually construct that solution.
Yep.
And then test that solution, otherwise known as simulation.
So digital twin is I appreciate you bringing that term. We've talked about digital twin before, and I've even speculated that digital twin is basically going to be, in my prediction, is going to be, we're going to step into the next industrial revolution. Maybe it's more of a 4.5, but I think we'll call it a 5.0, because we are able to do that. So digital twinning, really, we've been doing for years in terms of machining, because we have been doing 3D solid modeling with machining, and so we draw the part, and we do all the things. We even put the pieces together in 3D solid space, and we can run analysis on those things to see how they work. The difference between that, which is kind of the precursor, I would say, to true digital twinning as far as an industrial revolution, is the fact that we're entering in all the points and kind of creating the environment, being able to take in real world data from an actual process, model that process, and then start tweaking it virtually to see what the outcome's going to be is really the definition of digital twin.
And I'll give you an example. 10 years ago, NASA started the design for the rover device, or for the Mars exploration. And the rover was called Curiosity. But this was a mission critical project for NASA. They needed to get that design right because they wanted to study Mars, collect rock samples and pictures, and transmit those back to the United States, back to the Earth. Well, Siemens 10 years ago basically provided to NASA our digital twin software.
Wow.
That allowed them now to simulate essentially the environment in Mars, the temperature, the exposure to dust, and other things. And they needed to get that design of the rover right so it would basically meet the mission critical requirements of Curiosity. And they did it.
Yep.
They used our software, our digital twin software, to create the design, optimize the design based on their simulation tests. And today, wouldn't you know that Curiosity is still collecting rocks in Mars and beaming pictures back to Earth.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, and
I
I
had
love
no
watching
idea.
those pictures. I love looking at those pictures. It's just amazing to think that, and it's not alone now. There's more. And
That was 10 years ago. So
We
what
started.
advancements have been made since then?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, actually, for the audience, on June 29th, Siemens had a worldwide global announcement that we are now going forward with what is called the Siemens Xcelerator. And this is a all-business unit active project where we are basically bringing to market a digital business platform that will be available to customers to essentially allow them to go on that journey of digital transformation and make it as easy as possible for them to convert their business, convert their processes, convert their machines, to take advantage of what NASA did with the digital twin. When you're able to do that, just like I said before, I'm able now to design, I'm able to modify or optimize the design, and then adjust it for my rapidly changing industrial requirements in industry. You have to be nimble in these times. Digital twin technology allows you to do that, and the Siemens Xcelerator business platform will not only be a Siemens platform, but we're also looking at innovations from partners that come into this idea. And basically, we start to work together with new modular-based cloud advanced and cloud sharing information devices that will allow you to have application plug-in technology to take advantage of these innovations from our digital partners to make a complete solution. And so Siemens Xcelerator, it's a whole new way of going to market, but it's all designed around how do we make a customer take advantage of the digital transformation that's upon us. And I'll give you an example of who is a partner. We also announced on June 29th through our CEO, Roland Bush, that we've partnered with NVIDIA. Mm-hmm. Now, NVIDIA has really optimized their Omniverse, which is a virtual reality platform. Taking that technology and combining it with the Siemens technology, what we are focusing in on now is the industrial metaverse. And with the reality that we can present through 3D imaging and the industrial metaverse, utilizing the techniques and the technology from NVIDIA with the software tools and products from Siemens, all of a sudden I can take a complete robotic assembly line that exists in reality and virtually create it and manipulate it in a very high quality 3D virtual reality world called the industrial metaverse. These are really exciting times that we're going into, and the importance of having smart drives fit for the future, designed for the future, capable of communicating, and then taking advantage of key partners and our software tools to work in a virtual world in the industrial metaverse allows the concept of the Siemens Xcelerator to really take hold. And this is not a one-shot deal. This is a multi-year, multi-business unit, all Siemens business unit initiative, all designed around helping customers.
I've been watching the rollouts and the announcements. It's been very exciting. And Siemens comes up with really cool names too. So the Siemens Xcelerator program, so I like that as well. I like the marketing around it. Well, Rudy, thank you for giving us some insights on what's coming. That's pretty exciting. It's always a joy to talk with you. I've enjoyed our conversations. As we build this partnership, I hope for many more.
We're looking forward because the partnership is critical to us. You're there to help your customers with our technology going forward. And that's why we're working with you.
Yep. Well, we appreciate it too. So, Beth, we're going to bid farewell to Mr. Rudy Hauser here. Rudy, thank you again for taking some time. And we're going to be moving to our next guest. So, everybody just we're not going to have any kind of a special.
We don't put ads in our.
Yeah, we're not going to do ads or anything. We're just going to change seats. So, for those of you watching on video, Rudy's going to exit, and then we're going to have our next guest come in. So, give us just 1 second. We'll make a set change, but it'll happen in an instant.
That's right. Thank you, Rudy, for your expertise.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, so we're back with our second guest.
Yay.
And so we'll jump straight into it. So Rudy did a great job for us. So Beth, walk us through.
All right, our next guest is Andrew Miller. Andrew is... All right.
Get a sound effect.
I appreciate that.
Andrew is a partner manager for Siemens Drives and Motion team. Andrew has been with Siemens for 26 years.
Wow.
Yep.
So
Where's the clap?
I think there you go.
All right.
Because I don't have them labeled, and so that's the thing. I never can remember where they are, so sometimes the luck of the draw.
So Andrew is skilled in automation solutions, business development, account management, and partner development. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you, Beth. I appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome. So
another long veteran
Yes.
26 years.
So that's one of the things that we were talking about with Siemens. We've had many conversations about is that it's hard to find. It's difficult to find someone that's worked for Siemens for less than 20 years. Mm-hmm. So it's just a testament to the company, to how people love the company. We were privileged to have dinner last night when some of the conversation was talking about that even folks that worked for Siemens for some amount of years and then left, or even that nobody really leaves, they transferred to another division or something like that, but whether they transfer or whatever, they always a lot of times tend to come back, and so it just seems like a great company, and certainly I've enjoyed getting to know you and many of the other folks with Siemens. So we're excited about that. But today, again, as we pointed out at the beginning of the episode, industrial automation doesn't have to be painful. We're talking about the products, the services, the really attitudes of Siemens that manufacturers that they're doing that can give manufacturers a way of managing some of the painfulness that we've been going through over the last 12 months, 14 months.
Seems longer.
3 years. So we've kind of been going through this. So Andrew, I'm glad that you're here with us.
As the channel partner, how does Siemens select their local partners?
We really look for companies and really leadership, Beth, that embodies our core values as well. It's a customer focus and a growth mindset. And that's something that we feel like we found here at ELDP. It allows us to amplify and kind of extend the Siemens mindset, the Siemens community within our partners. We'll have distributor partners that are do a lot of the selling support with our end user customers. We also have solution partners that do a lot of the project execution. And we really look for those qualities within those companies, big, small, different focuses within the Siemens portfolio. But we want people who are really have a curiosity to them. And we feel like if they have that curiosity, they're going to be continuing to innovate and look to new technologies, and they're going to be able to take that and partner with their customers, the manufacturers in the local markets, to bring really the mega trends that we hear about on the internet and buzzwords, and bring them into a reality for those customers, that they can help solve their problems, they can help their customers innovate, they can sometimes just say yes to projects that I wish we could do this, or what if we could do this. A lot of this new technology allows them to take those on at a lower cost point, maybe in a maintenance budget versus a CapEx spend.
Yep.
That 5 years ago, 10 years ago would have been a significant investment. They're able to either do it in software, which is a possibility, or on a much smaller scale, grab data out of a certain part of their plant to see that they can get information to answer questions that they have and make decisions based on that.
Well, certainly, and you mentioned a couple of things. So data, we talked with Rudy a bit about some of the high level stuff. You mentioned curiosity. He was talking about the Mars curiosity.
Yeah.
So all of that, just fantastic invention that a company like Siemens, a global company, is bringing about, and then you bring that down to the local level, to the manufacturer level. How in the world do they get those? Do they get those pieces? And what pieces? And it's a fantastic storyline and a testament to Siemens and what it's doing, working with NASA, Mars exploration, and things of that nature. But for the plant CEO, that's really cool stuff. But how the heck do I apply NASA technology and this Siemens technology in my plant? Is a problem that they're having to face. And so I think that's what comes to part of the selection process with Siemens, and how do you kind of point out or pick out those local partners, both the distribution partners, but also the solutions partners, which you brought up, and that's two different things. We're considered a local distribution partner, not a solutions partner, and so we work with the solutions partner and support them as well. And so the benefits. There's benefits to Siemens. There's benefits to the end user. There's certainly benefits to companies like ELDP to be associated with Siemens. But what kind of benefits do you see coming to having a more local presence to be able to pull those things together?
Well, it's as you said, it's really neat to talk about NASA, but what does that mean to an automotive supplier?
Right.
They see that as kind of something far off and something that is not for them, when really it can be for them.
Mm-hmm.
And not everything is for everybody. So when Siemens is focusing on those high-level trends that are mega trends affecting the whole world, we're able to partner as one step down from global Siemens, a U.S. Siemens organization, and what's the right fit for the United States. And then we're able to go through the selection process, finding kind of kindred spirits with that curiosity to dial it down even to a more local level, so that ELDP knows that local automotive supplier, and we're having discussions with ELDP, transferring knowledge about the technology. We're receiving knowledge about the customer base, and so during those conversations, we can identify portfolio items, whether it's hardware or software, that could be of value to that customer to answer specific questions. You're talking about taking things out of the 30,000 foot level, digitalization, Industry 4.0, and really bringing up a bespoke solution unique to that customer. Because that customer, they want to see the value in it, but they don't have time. They're making automotive parts. They're making tires. They're packaging, bottling, soft drinks, things like that. And they're experts in that. And they know what they need to move forward with that, but they don't necessarily know the technology to get them there. And so that's where a partner like ELDP can identify, have the conversations with the customer, the end user, to identify their goals or issues. And then Siemens can have the conversation with ELDP to identify what technologies could be applicable. And it works out to really a unique solution for that manufacturer that comes out of this pie in the sky ideas and NASA technology.
Yeah.
It could be a digital twin. It could be bringing data up. It could be going to a cloud. It could be hosting it on site. And Siemens benefits from having that local partnership by really getting that laser focus on that one manufacturer, that we can bring parts of our broad portfolio to help them be more successful.
And that's whether or not they're Siemens users currently or not. I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely.
There's new technology breeds new interest, new curiosity. I like that term, curiosity. And so you within Siemens, of course, you're part of the drives and motion control business unit, I guess we could say. But you're responsible for, you're managing the partners.
Yes.
And your area is the U.S.
Yes, well, I have a national scope. Just since I focus on the drives and motion portfolio, I'll work across the United States, and that helps with consistency across the U.S. So we have a good standard for really amplification. Our partner community is what we're looking for to help extend the Siemens community to that customer base, that end user base, the manufacturing base. And so we'll cover across the U.S. so that we have a good standard. And so we're getting partners that have that same curiosity in California as we are in East Tennessee, Atlanta, New York, across the U.S.
Yeah. And so for all of our listeners out there that, are in manufacturing, that's what we would suggest that you do. Contact your local partners. The fact of the matter is Andrew is one person, and his job is to manage the local partners, to give us the pieces and the parts and work with us and put the right team around us as we go out on a local level and assess, like you said, the manufacturers, the customers, the needs in our areas. And so you start with your local preferred distributor. And then they should be able to bring this level of innovation to give you access to these things and show you how to start the conversation of how those things can be implemented. And so that's something we're very excited about, of course, in Eastern Tennessee, but our audience is across the globe. So if you're outside of North America, you'll work with someone else besides Andrew.
Yes.
But there is a person that's managing local partners globally for Siemens. And so that standard is kind of a definition of what you would look for. And so Siemens is very particular about who they partner with in terms of local distribution partners. We know that firsthand and respect that, and also about the solutions partners that they sign up and work with. So a very impressive group from the folks that I've talked to, the distributors and certainly the solutions partners in our area, but even outside of our area that I've had the opportunity to kind of interview or discuss with as we've gone through this process of partnering with Siemens. So it's been a privilege, but certainly the fact, was it 26 years? Is that right? 26 years? Mm-hmm. The 26 years, and Rudy was 42. 42 years. There's all kinds of experience lined up.
Knowledge.
Knowledge and experience and wisdom of how to get those pieces and parts out of this NASA-grade world of technology and innovation down to the manufacturing floor.
Yeah, and when we get it right, and I'd say we do it more often than not, it's just a win-win-win. You know, that's a catchy saying, but it really is enjoyable when it plays out for the manufacturer, for the partner, and for Siemens, because we really maximize our efficiency with the discussions we have, with the conversations, not starting from that 30,000-foot global level that we're talking about, but saying, okay, this is where we're headed in this conversation. And Siemens will engage with the local manufacturer. It's not that we put somebody between us, but we have an advocate for Siemens and for that customer, and that helps us just to be more efficient and effective, because we know they're busy, you know, with their business, and it takes time, and it's an investment in time and energy and just thought of expansion or retrofitting something, you know, that's taken away from the primary goal of producing, you know, their end product. So we really want to make that an efficient conversation and allow them to get back to their business at hand. And that's where the partnership really, really does well for everyone involved.
And again, Andrew is part of the Drives and Motion business unit, but you hear him talking about the other business units in collaboration. In a lot of companies that I've been involved with in past lives that have, you know, different business units or different verticals, things of that nature, they tend to put the blinders on, and this is it. We're just focused on this. If you need anything outside of that, I don't know who that person is. But there's a lot of synergy within Siemens and within the different business units. And that's the other thing I think brings a very big benefit to the end user is to be able to, they may speak to you if they're talking directly to Siemens, but even if it's outside of your business unit, you have access to all the other folks, and you can just bring those in. It's not like you all work in the same building and never met.
Yeah.
And I've been in situations where that seems to be the case. It's not the culture of Siemens today that I've seen.
Our leadership really wants everyone communicating. Siemens is at our strongest when we're bringing a broad portfolio of a totally integrated automation with drives and networks and control products and automation. And our partners are absolutely bringing that solution to the customer, because the end user is going to have a multitude of parts coming in to, again, answer questions or increase productivity. And we try to do our best to bring that solution further back into Siemens, rather than just dumping it right on the customer with a box of parts and they've got to put it all together.
Right.
We want them to have confidence of really the value they're getting out of bringing a Siemens solution together. And, 26 years, you move around. Siemens is big enough to have a couple different careers during those years. And you're networking with a lot of folks. You're working in different businesses. And most often you're working with them, with customers, to provide the solutions. And so you pick up a lot along the way. So, but we try to be as individuals with Siemens, we try to bring as much value as we can. And we know that that's not within our silo. It's bringing additional value outside of our Drives and Motion team. Like we talk about Siemens Financial Services. Yep. We talk about the automation, the networking as much as we can. And on our team within Partner Management, I'm the Drives and Motion person. We have automation, networks, control products, and we're always working together, trying to make our policies and procedures similar so that you have less of a headache of, there's a lot more continuity between programs and policies, the messaging, the communications. We're not inundating you multiple times. You're getting it all in one shot, one email, one webinar, whatever it is, the communication. We're communicating succinctly together, and we're all in lockstep is what our goal is.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. Beth, did you have anything to add?
No, I think they're doing a fabulous job at it.
Yeah, they are. So if you, as you're listening to today's podcast, we're kind of going through multiple. We've got 3 guests in total, and so each one is got a different perspective, all from the Siemens perspective. So we kind of started out interstellar with Rudy, talking about Mars and the Siemens Xcelerator programs and things of that nature, and then and the exciting products to come. And then now we've talked with Andrew about how we can pull that down to a local level and starting to find solutions that we as a local partner and the solutions partners, we can all work together with the end user to help make those kind of a reality. So we're going to continue down that path with our next guest. But Andrew, I want to thank you for taking a few minutes to visit us. Number one, we're up here at our training center. That's one of the things that we'll be talking about going forward. Is we're going to be partnering with Siemens on some training, offering some local training initiatives, get the folks in the plant level up to speed. Disseminate new information, this new technology. Unfortunately, you're not just born knowing it. So we have to get that information out. And being able to have folks like yourself, not that you're going to be here doing trainings, but with that breadth of experience. Unfortunately, one of the things a lot of manufacturers are facing is the baby boomers are exiting, and with them, a lot of knowledge is exiting. So for those of us who are not quite baby boomers, short of the baby boomer range, we need to focus on disseminating that information to the younger crew and helping them succeed. And of course, our next guest is a bit younger than us, but has been with Siemens still for a number of years and very involved. So we'll bring him, we'll introduce him in a minute. So right now the focus is Andrew. So thank you very much for taking some time.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure joining you today. It's great to see your facility. We look forward to the training sessions that are going to happen at ELDP University, and that's part of that growth mindset that makes us feel that we're going to have a lot of good success working together in the future. We're looking forward to it.
All right, guys, stick around. We're going to bring in our next guest. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, and so we're back. So we've had a couple of guests. We've got another guest. So again, if you're following, like we said just a minute ago, we're kind of going from big to a little bit smaller, now to a focused local support, our local perspective. And so, Beth, give us our introductions.
Okay, we've got Matt Wagner with us, and
you get the sound effect.
Yes. Matt started as an application center engineer for Siemens more than 5 years ago. This was his first rotation of the Engineering Leadership Development Program, and that is an acronym. It's ELT. No, it's ELDP. Following his ELDP, or ELT as I say, he accepted his new role as a drives and motion consultant for Siemens Digital Industries division. Matt not only specializes in sales generation, he is also a technical resource. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Beth. Thanks, Brandon. I'm excited to be here, and as I've told you a few times now, I'm excited to be partnered with you in this area. I really feel like your guys' local industry experience mixed with the Siemens solutions that we're helping bring can really be a great partnership and help a lot of companies in this area. So
Matt, your area of coverage is kind of the southeast, not the complete southeast, but a subsection of the southeast. So again, you work directly with us as a local distribution partner here in Eastern Tennessee, which is part of your territory. Now, on the whole, again, we were talking about Siemens on the whole. Siemens is a global company, and so at each little coverage area across the globe, there's a whole lot of mats.
Oh,
And
wow.
so Matt is also part of the Drives and Motion group. And so the reason we have all three of those here with us this week is because we have been doing Drives and Motion training, and then also rolling out our new affiliation with Siemens as far as our training center here locally to offer local trainings. And part of that, of course, is Drives and Motion training. And so Matt knows, his focus. What is give us the layout of your area?
Yeah, so I cover all of Tennessee, all of Alabama, and the Panhandle of Florida, so down to the Gulf, and then a majority of Mississippi, and then a few of the surrounding areas around Chattanooga and Memphis. But there is someone within my role across the entire country and pretty much across the world, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that we were talking about before we started recording the podcast, I thought it was interesting. I'd like for you to go through just to briefly tell us about the ELDP program and what that is. You were part of that. I just thought that was pretty cool. Maybe an opportunity for folks out there.
Right. Yeah. So the ELDP program was started, probably 15 years ago or so. It's been going on for a long time. And it's a really great way for us to bring in, new talented engineers typically, or a lot of marketing folks, people within finance. Each one has their own program where we recruit at a lot of the local colleges around the U.S. And then, they found me at a career fair and we interviewed, and then I applied. And it's basically a 2-year-long 4-rotation program where you get to see different areas of the business. And then at the end of the program, you work with the managers and you kind of see what you like best. And then it allows you to go into a role that you're actually really interested in when you start full time.
Smart.
And instead of getting into a new role and not being so sure about it, and then leaving after a few years, you see a lot more people stick around.
So
because
that's why Siemens people stay 42 years plus.
That's right. They hook them early, and then everybody's around for their lifetime.
Well, if you're doing what you love and what you're
Yeah.
interested in, but that's the other thing that Andrew talked about a bit was you can have multiple careers and never leave Siemens. So there's just so many business units and stuff like that. I mean, Siemens is we've said before, a behemoth company, and the products and the offering across not just automation, but all the way out to PET scanners and hearing aids and copy machines and all these kind of things that they do. But within the Siemens group of automation products, the digital industries type products, there's still all kinds of things. But you're specifically focused in. You chose to be part of the Drives and Motion business unit,
Right.
I guess, after you went through there. And so we also are going 42 years of experience with Rudy, 26 years of experience with Andrew, and how long?
5 years now.
5 years. And then we're also going, you can't see my hair color, so I don't, but a little grayer on Rudy's side, and Andrew's, debonair, more, he's got, I have an SPF problem, but anyway, he and I are in the same age group, and then now we're coming down to your age group. And so would you say that you're a millennial?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Absolutely. And so these types of programs, I'm intrigued by the millennials. At dinner, we had the privilege of you being at dinner with us last night, and I was asking you, my curiosity about the millennial movement, because we are seeing the baby boomers move out,
Right.
and the millennials move in now to positions that are key positions within manufacturing, on the manufacturing floor, at all the different types of business units that they inhabit, and how how I'm so excited to see what level of innovation your generation is going to bring.
Right.
We talked about how when I was in my 20-something, 4-year degree, getting into automation, met my very first PLC at the time. PLCs had been around. I'm not that old. They had been around for a while, but it was still an industry in its infancy. And so you really did need to have a 4-year degree. And even then, I was scratching my head a lot. It was new territory. And so over the past roughly 30 years, the industry as a whole has worked to kind of bring the difficulty down to a more palatable level. And so you don't have to have a 4-year degree now. You don't even have to have a 2-year degree necessarily. You do need training, because you're not just born knowing this stuff. But that's where you come into play. I think with your age group and the way you view innovation, I want to hear some of the stuff that is important to you, that you feel like Siemens brings, and then more on a local level as you're working more and more closely with not just end users, but with the local distribution partners and the solution partners. What are some of the things that you think is a good local perspective?
Yeah, well, kind of to your point, I like how you mentioned that things are starting to change and where we see the innovation. For the longest time, it was about good quality products, qualities that didn't break down, qualities or products that, integrated well with whatever the system is currently. But you're starting to see a lot more of the innovation. I guess everything on that side of the products has been pretty good for a long time. We've come to a level of quality that you don't see a whole lot of terribly made products out there anymore, at least in this industry. So where you're seeing a lot more of the innovation is it's on the usability, like you said, that it's user friendly, that anybody can walk into it and just start to figure out how a product works. You're seeing a lot more on the software side of things, where instead of making improvements to the hardware all the time, we're trying to see how can we actually integrate this hardware into, say, an entire plant network that's analyzing, everything on the production floor, or pump it up into the cloud and do some predictive analytics with it. That's really where we're starting to see the industry go a little bit more. And I think it's just going to start to snowball now that, like you said, kind of a new workforce is coming into this industry, and it's influencing a lot.
So can you give us an example of, with local customers that may have had issues with communications, an example of what they do about legacy devices and then communication systems?
Yeah, so we definitely still see a lot of very old legacy products and communication protocols out there. It kind of makes me laugh how much I still see so many Siemens master drives. If you're familiar with the master drive lineup, it was released the year I was born, and so back in '94, and they're still everywhere, and they're still running.
Wow.
They're running well, and so people never really had a reason to switch them. But where I really try to work with customers in this area is, they may have some of those legacy products and legacy devices, but when you go to replace that, don't just put something new in that does the exact same thing.
Right.
There's been over 20 years, almost 30 years of innovation and new features and new capabilities and parts about the products that can really allow you to increase production or decrease downtime, reduce your energy costs, be proactive instead of reactive. So take advantage of these new innovations that were coming out when you go to upgrade stuff like that, and really help your company benefit and get a competitive edge for yourself.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, just as I've seen over the past 30 years, the usability is certainly something, but now in the last 10 years, IoT, we've talked a lot about IoT. So getting that data movement, things that not just how's it running or that kind of stuff, and pushing information down to it, which for some that's still uncharted territory. But also the ability to monitor and apply the AI and things for scheduled predictive maintenance and things of that nature. And that's just going to be the tip of the iceberg on this whole thing.
Right.
Rudy went into some of the digital twin and how we're going to be modeling things digitally before we ever build them, and bring in real world data to insert into that, so that we don't just have to simulate the environment, we actually can bring in the environment and apply that real time to things. And so those types of things I think are big deals. And so your perspective of how you can take, you can get so far if you just go in and change drive for drive or function for function, you are short selling yourself in today's world.
Right. Yeah, there's so much more out there, and like I said, I'm on the drive side, so I cover everything from the AC to DC drives, small horsepower to large horsepower, servos to variable frequency drives. Siemens' portfolio has gotten so big that if you need a drive product out there, we probably have it, and we probably have some cool new features about it. And you mentioned before the legacy networks, and I didn't even touch on that, but in these days, it's becoming a more and more global world. So, and while Siemens may be the biggest in this industry worldwide, we recognize that there's a lot of other major players out there, especially here in the United States. So we're starting to kind of mix in some of the different communication protocols with our products so that we can start to play along with other machines that are out there and allow customers to get some of the advantages of the Siemens Drives product, even if they're not ready to rip out their entire system or completely revamp everything they've been doing all at once.
So what kind of products would those be? What kind of things are you rolling out, just to be more specific about that, protocols and things of that nature?
Yeah, so on the hardware side, we're starting to mix in, Profinet has always been Siemens's kind of standard Ethernet protocol. For the longest time, it was Profibus. That was our serial version of it back in the day. But over the last few years, we've added Ethernet IP to our equipment, and it's built into the hardware. You don't need any additional hardware, no option cards, no special firmware to talk to it. It's really just one parameter switch. You go in, you switch it from Profinet to Ethernet IP, and now you're talking to somebody else's network.
So let's put that in perspective, because we talked about this yesterday. From a sales literature and stuff like that, that kind of rolls off the tongue, because we're used to saying, from my experience, Profinet, and then there's Ethernet IP. And you just usually specify that. You buy a Profinet drive or a Ethernet IP drive with most other companies. But with Siemens, they do both in one box, one piece of hardware. And so you get to pick and choose. So where that boils down for me, from my past experience with the end user, is if you're keeping spare parts on the shelf, you don't have to keep, we've got a machine that came in with Profinet, but we got this other machine that came in with Ethernet IP. We got to keep 2 drives, and that's a real cost. That's real money. We got to keep those in spare parts, things of that nature. Now we can just reduce that down. And so imagine if you had to keep 2, one Ethernet IP drive, one Profinet, you just reduce your spare parts cost by 50%. And that's real money. And so being able to have that type of usability, I count that under usability, because the fact that you all support it is great, but the fact that it's all supported in the same unit and it's just an option, it gives all kinds of new definition to the return on investment.
And building on the usability, then you're only learning one product.
That's
You're
right.
only learning one drive. You don't have to have experts on one product over here and then experts in the other, or trying to learn both and then getting them confused.
Yeah.
You know one, and you have it for your whole plant.
That's smart.
Yeah. It'd be like having to have, you got to drive this kind of car on this road, and you got to drive this other kind of car on that road.
That's right.
And if you want to get across town, you got
This
to know
is a
how to
straight
drive.
shift.
Yeah,
this is a manual.
Yeah. And so, that type of innovation. So, and then there's also software side. We were interfacing. You were showing us how you can interface with a drive using an iPhone app.
Right. Yeah, that's one of my favorites to do. Is like you said, I'm a millennial, so I like being on my phone. I'm on it all the time. I try to not be on it all the time. I'm working on that. But everything that me and a lot of people my age grow up with is doing it on your phone or your tablet, and being on the go and being mobile. So the fact that we've built that into some of our products, where you can actually just connect up to a drive with your smartphone, no apps or anything, just straight through the Wi-Fi, and commission a drive and program it for whatever application you're doing, is a pretty cool feature, and something that a lot of people are really showing an interest in, and I think it's going to continue down that direction for a long time.
Well, this is again innovation, and part of the innovation is, so everybody's like, there's probably somebody out there saying, what's the big deal? You can take a smartphone and hook it up to a drive. First of all, let me just throw this right out there. I will say with total confidence, I have not found a company more committed, and for a longer amount of time, so that means they built upon this, more committed to cybersecurity and secure systems. So number one, so that's the first question I ask you. Who all can get hooked up to this thing with this deal? So there's credentials and things that have to be put in.
Right.
The second thing is it's done wirelessly, but you can weaken the signal so that you have to be only within so many feet of this thing so that you can get access to it. So they've got all this.
So somebody can't hijack the.
Yeah, it's
signal?
not like if you have the Siemens drive in there and again, this is an option, right? And even then you can turn it off or turn it on and off. But it's not like if your plant has concerns about having any kind of a wireless hotspot inside of the four walls of the plant because you're afraid somebody's going to pull up in the parking lot and start pulling information. It's not that type of network. It's just, first of all, it's a direct connection to the drive. That's all you could get into. And then number two, you can dole down that signal where you would have to not get in the parking lot. You'd have to pull through the back door and pull up beside the machine. And, it's just not, cybersecurity keeps the things secure. It doesn't necessarily act as a security system to make sure someone can't get in the back door. So there's different systems for that. But the fact that Siemens is working on that kind of thing, but what that really means is now all of a sudden we have little things called arc flash requirements that come down to maintenance. You can't just open up a live panel. Most drives are considered high voltage. Arc flash requirements come into play. Anything over usually 24 volts DC in the cabinet. So even if you're 110, even though the fax machine in the office is not considered an arc flash risk,
Yeah, you're right.
the enclosure that says 110
Do you know what
volts.
a fax machine is? I'm just asking.
My door's stopping over here?
I should say something different. Anyway, all right, so,
Sorry.
what else is in there? The coffee maker. Even though the coffee maker is not an arc flash risk, out in the floor at 110 volts for a lot of plants is a risk for arc flash if you open that up. And I'm not making a lot of that. It's a very important thing. But so the way we traditionally done that is we've had to take the operator off of the drive, and of course Siemens supports that, and mount it to the drive, which means we're cutting holes, we're doing all kinds of stuff. We got cables come up, opening and closing around, and going around a hinge on a door. You got to do that just right. If it flexes too much, it breaks, stops working, you get shorts in the wire, that kind of stuff. Suddenly, all that goes away. We snap this thing in there, close the door. It's totally arc flash compliant at that point, and they get up within 4 feet of the machine, open the iPad app, and they can do everything as if they're working on, from a maintenance standpoint. And so it simplifies a lot of stuff. And then also you get to swipe and do all the the things that we're all used to nowadays. You don't have to set keys and up keys and down keys and all that kind of stuff.
But yeah, you're exactly right. It makes it a lot easier. It saves you all that lockout tagout procedure that can take a lot of time. And then like you said, there's a lot of safety measures built into it. It cannot connect into your plant Wi-Fi. It's only a one-to-one connection, so it can only talk to your device, one device at a time. It's password protected. Even if you can get into that, a lot of the parameters within the drives you can password protect, and you can lock those down so not anybody can get in and edit it. You can always turn off the Wi-Fi if you don't want it going all the time. So there's a lot of different features built into it that allow you to get into it. Just all around, we want to enhance that usability, but we also want to make sure we're being safe while we're doing it at the same time. Sure.
And definitely a picture of innovation from Siemens.
Yeah.
So Matt, I would expect, this is not a precursor to anything coming, but I would enjoy the opportunity for us to involve you on future podcasts as we talk about some of the innovation and stuff like that. But for today, we're kind of getting ready to wrap up. So I want to thank you for taking time to spend with us here at ELDP during this training. And as we, again, have unveiled our collaboration with Siemens and our ELDP University for doing training here at ELDP. Also, we are the authorized distributor for the Eastern Tennessee area. So if we can help you with that, but certainly if you are outside of that area, do not be afraid to reach out to us, ask us your questions. We know Matt, and if he's not in your territory, or Andrew, and I think Rudy is in every territory.
Yeah, he makes his way around.
Yeah, everybody probably knows Rudy. But
answered those two.
Yeah. So, but if you need anything, especially if you're interested, if you're not using Siemens products in your plant and you've got some questions there, certainly you can go to the Siemens website. But hit us up with those questions. We'll be happy. The program is here to disseminate information first and foremost. And so I appreciate the time you've taken today to help do that, especially speaking to some of those who may be more on the millennial side of things, to say, hey, this is kind of, Siemens has done a good job, I think, of considering the millennials and the things that you all like, whereas if it stayed with us older guys, it wouldn't be cool.
It'd be on a fax machine.
Be doing faxing. That's right. So
Yeah, but thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Brandon. This has been a really fun. Yeah, I'm hoping to be able to not only work with you on our local business here, but also maybe on another podcast in the future.
All right, great. Well, guys, if you want to reach out to us, you're going to hear this again on the outro, but I'm going to say at www.ellitek.com. We'll be really happy to work with you. Give us a call, 865-409-1555. Beth?
Yes, Brandon.
Have a fantastic day.
You too. Thank you for joining us, Matt.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. See ya. Hey guys, thanks for checking out today's episode of Industrial Automation It Doesn't Have To. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, make sure you give us a rating that's pretty doggone high, and do that everywhere you listen, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'd really appreciate it. Also, don't forget about our website. That's www.ellitek.com. That's ELLITEK.com. If you want to reach out to us there, you can fill out our contact form. We'd appreciate it. Also, you can email us at info@ellitek.com. And certainly for those of you that still like to dial the phone, give us a call, 865-409-1555. We'd love to hear from you.